Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to Hotsport. On this weekend, the grand final weekend, I should mention, actually, in Australia, for my Australian crowd. I'm obviously filming from Melbourne. From basically down the road from where the final is taking place at the MCG. And so it's a good day to talk about betting, which is what I'm going to kind of make Upset Alert more about as we go on. So, and I got to say, I've been looking at the odds of a lot of the games this weekend. I want to go over, of course, the ones where I think there are chances for drop points, which is the most, which is basically the main idea, making sure that some of these. So, the ones that I'm going to show you today are going to surprise you, but I actually think overall this is going to be a pretty straightforward weekend in the Premier League. And I should note that the teams I'm putting on the upset alert, I would still probably say I'm not liking my chances of being right. I probably don't want to be right. That was going to give you a hint about one of them. But yeah, let's get into our upset alert this week, guys. Again, just as always, it's going to be a funny. Let's bring up the upset alert graphic. By the way, I should have mentioned, as you're always mentioning for videos as such, make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to Hotsport. Make sure you guys check out. I will leave a link to it or direct it or put it in the recommendations for the podcast that we did this morning, filmed this morning with Kane and Ash, Newcastle fans. Our first ever Fire Them Cannons Thunderdome episode, and it's our first one. It's also like the fourth big match. It's just the first ones where I really were able to fight. First of all, the first one I could have done. I didn't have, like, we didn't start the podcast until after our first game against Manchester United. But that would have been a fun Thunderdome. But we got it down finally, and then we're not going to have one probably until December. So this is going to be a special one, guys. And it was good with Ash and Cal. So go check that out. But now, let's time to do upset alert. Let's go through some of the fixtures that we have for the weekend. By the way, outside. So let's just say, match week 6. It begins at the GTEC Stadium, Brentford against Manchester United. Now, I think a lot of people think that, like, Man United are in trouble because they always are in trouble. I actually think that they might start to get on a roll here. I just think Brentford is not that good, and I think Man United, for the first time in a long time, are going to get back-to-back win. Man City, Burnley, I think is going to be. I think that's the bet of the week, honestly. Chelsea Brighton is going to be a tough one. I thought about putting it on here, but at the end of the day, the ingredients really aren't there. I think Chelsea, they're going to be desperate to get off the mark, like for the first time since match week 3, but they've been good at the bridge overall this season. Now, keep in mind, their last 2 games since they came back from the break were away from home. And they also had, and no, not just for the game against Bayern was also away from home. So they're going to be back on home turf against Brighton, who is not as good away from home as they are at home. I expect Chelsea to win. Leeds against Bournemouth. I think that one should be tough. It's a tough game. I still back the Cherries. I think at this point we gotta say the Cherries are superior to Leeds, and this is the first game we can really say that they're really, really well and truly. Again, their schedule has been tough, And so finally it gets a little bit easier for them. They get leads. By the way, they should make Arsenal officially the toughest schedule in the league after this week. Then you got Crystal Palace against Liverpool, Nottingham Forest against Sunderland. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know which way to go. That's going to be an interesting one to go because it should be Forest, given Sunderland's promoted and Forest finished 7th last year. But and also Sunderland are been poor away from home this year. So hard to tell. That one's a bit of a toss up for me. Tottenham against Wolves. I reckon this is an easy 3 points at home for Spurs. Fulham against Villa at Villa Park. This is very similar to the Forest Sunderland one. Like, I think Fulham was so good last week, and Villa have struggled to hit the back of the net, but I just think that can't last forever. I have this weird feeling Villa actually finally score legitimate goals with 11 men on the pitch and win. You got that Newcastle against Arsenal game. Everton host West Ham. I know that's a tough one again. That's a tough one to pick. That is a tough one to pick. That one, of course, is Monday Night Football. But let's get into who we think is on upset alert. And yeah, it's going to shock you. You should see the title, right? Upset alert. First one, and this game is going to be at the 3 p.m. kickoffs in England on Saturday, midnight kickoffs for us here in Australia town, down under. And again, you're thinking like, again, Anton, again, you're putting Liverpool under pressure. You're taking this way too far. Under pressure, sorry. Upset alert, you're taking this way too far. Here's the truth. And this is the theme of the weekend. As I said, I expect the teams that I've put on upset alert to pass the test. But this is to simply say that they are tests. Traditionally, going to Selhurst Park has been a tough stomping grounds for Liverpool. Add in the drama, by the way, that Mark Gahey almost was their player and now will be captaining against them. Added to the fact that Glasner has been really, really, really putting together like if you thought last year having them in the FA Cup was good, I think this year's coaching performance so far through the first 5 games has been even better, considering that the squad is getting weaker. They've lost their best player. And yeah, I think Liverpool have been scraping it. And Liverpool have to rely now on Alexander Isak for 90 minutes. Now, it can go one of two ways. It could mean that Isak, hits the ground running and you got time to kind of, maybe that goal in the midweek did help him. He had the time to really win back that spot because Ekitike really screwed it up for himself. But at the same time, this is a player who's had parent injuries all summer, who's barely had an off season, and yeah, they got nowhere else to turn to in that regard. And again, their performances haven't been great. They've been scraping over the line. This one, you don't have the magic of Anfield to suck things in. You don't have, no offense to Burnley, crappy Burnley making, mistakes at the end. Like, if Palace put in a Burnley level effort at home and Liverpool continue to just play with fire the way they have, it could be the recipe for us for an upset. Now, like, at some point, either Liverpool are gonna hit fire and they're gonna be the team everyone believes them to be, or they're finally going to get burned. So let's see. Selhurst Park has been a tough place. This has been a bogey side for Liverpool to go to. So that is the first one that I put on upset alert. And I finally get to do, by the way, we're speaking of Liverpool and upset alert, finally got to do it, ahead of the game, so I'm not watching it and, while talking about it. But again, I'm legit. That's what I said last week. Next one, again, Arsenal. Newcastle. And as I said again, another chance to plug the podcast that I did this morning. Arsenal against Newcastle at St. James's Park. Now, Arsenal's record against Newcastle last year was bad. 1-0 defeat away at St. James's Park on this fixture last year. Alexander Isak, by the way, scored that for them. Then I believe we lost 2-0 at St. James's Park again. Goals from Isak and Gordon. Before that, no, was it 2-0 against at home at the Emirates? And then we lost again to Newcastle. I think it was 2-0 as well. I think it was 4-0 on aggregate. We lost. We finally scored with Rice at the last end of the season with no Isak. Oh wait, no Isak now. Isak is a Liverpool player. But I say all that to say this. My team is under pressure. I said it already in my under pressure segment. This is a big game. Like, everything is riding on them. I hope we get through this test. It's a tough one. Do I think we can? I do. But it's not a foregone conclusion. And Newcastle, it has to be upset alert. Arsenal, they have been Arsenal's bogey team. Remember even the year before that with Willock, the famous ball that went out of bounds that ended up being an Anthony Gordon goal, right? In a 1-0 loss as well, I believe, in that fixture for Arsenal. So let alone, oh wait, the year before that, I think we smashed them. It was like late in the season. I think we won 3-0 or something. But this has been a tough stomping ground for Arsenal. Now, we should be fully healthy for the most part. In terms of our key players, our best 11 players should be fit. That's the truth. And Arteta needs to turn to that. He needs to turn to it this weekend. It's going to be hard. Again, Newcastle had their own problems. You know, they've struggled to score goals. But they always manage to, you know, be feisty, physical team up for Arsenal to play. And yeah, it's an upset alert for sure. And yeah, that's been a quick, nice little video for upset alert. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that I'm being unfair to Liverpool? Like, I mean, I'm being unfair to Arsenal. I mean, to be so funny, you know, Arsenal. I have Arsenal featured in the under pressure listen on this. I've been harsh on Arsenal. This is about being unbiased and being in reality, and sometimes you miss out on me being unbiased because you think I'm being biased, and that comes back to bite you. So, you know, there you go. Hopefully, guys, we have enjoy the games this week, because there are going to be some really feisty games definitely this week. I think highlighted by Arsenal against Newcastle. I am looking forward to that one. Nervous, but looking forward to it. And for my Australians, happy grand final day to all who celebrate. Like and subscribe, and on out.